Hi. So that was a great, rich week, wasn't it? This week we move into a different element of the first phase of rites of passage and transitions. Last week we looked at strength as one of the qualities of our true nature. Different systems have different ways of talking about it, of course. But this is one particular language to talk about strength and vitality and the energy, especially the energy that initiates change, that motivates us and empowers us to make changes that need to be made. Sometimes it comes in the sort of contracted version of anger and aggression. Contracted in the sense that the fullness and the richness of our aliveness can't come out in a complete way, but instead it gets distorted or contracted into anger. Or maybe the other side of it, which is when it's just simply blocked and not free to come out, or more like when we have conflicts about it, when it starts to come out, but we're not able to let it out freely. Then that energy in a conflicted way might leave us feeling depleted or deficient or overwhelmed by changes, overwhelmed by all it takes. And as we look deeply into either of these places, the depleted, overwhelmed place or the angry, aggressive place, as we look deeply into those, we'll find that there is a quality of our true nature that is available to us. The strength, robustness, the vitality, the vibrancy, courage. So, not to push that away, but this week we turn to a different aspect of our essential nature, our true nature, and that's compassion, which comes to the fore when we're dealing, among other things, with pain and grief. Compassion naturally arises when we're in the presence of pain, when we're in the presence of grief. And of course, all transitions involve some kind of loss, and so most of the time, they'll also involve some kind of grief, letting go. So we'll explore this week. The pain of transitions, the grief of letting go and losing, and the role that compassion plays in helping us to not just tolerate that grief, but to go deeply into it, to mine the riches, to find the gold that's there in the grief. So I look forward to our discussions this week. I also want to say, when we're talking about these even the phases of transitions, and especially the various qualities and emotions and feelings that come up in a phase, that we're segmenting these for the purpose of the class. So we're dividing one week, we look at overwhelm and depletion and anger and courage and strength. Another week we look at grief and pain and compassion. Of course, in reality, all these come together. They roll one into another. They're not, life doesn't compartmentalize in the way we have to do for the class. So we're not really leaving the material from last week. We're adding to it. We're building on it this week. I also want to say just a word about the self-generated rite of passage. This is, as you can see, one of the real sort of centerpieces of the class, and we're moving directly towards it now. So last week we began working with intention. We can continue the work with intentions this week and see what else. There are some basic outlines and structures available to you for generating your own rite of passage. Unit 4 in the study materials gave several outlines, all basically on the same themes. And I'll leave it to you to add the color and the flesh and to make it real for you in a way that really fits for you. So consider the bare bones structure as simply that. as a structure, and you bring yourself to it. You make it your own. I also want to say that, as I've said before, this is simply an invitation to a self-generated rite of passage. I really feel strongly that this should not be a requirement, even for a graduate course like this. You shouldn't be pushed into a rite of passage by such a sort of outside force. So, if it does not feel like right timing for you, like right action for you to design and carry out a rite of passage right now, feel free to contact me about some alternative, and I'm glad to work with you. On the other hand, if you're finding second thoughts or hesitations, or having some kinds of, I guess I want to say, resistance coming up, although I don't mean that in a negative way, I would say listen to that first. Listen to it. See what those voices are. See what you have to learn from them. Don't give them the steering wheel, but see what kind of intelligence is coming through those hesitations, resistances, fears, etc. And so I encourage you, strongly encourage you, do the best I can to support you in designing a rite of passage for yourself this semester. And if it's not the right thing, for sure there are alternatives. So, look forward to seeing you in Unit 5 here. Bye for now.